Welcome back to Great Mechanical Pencils. Today we're doing something a little different. For this video, we're going to have a look at some of the lid refills I have in my collection. We'll show everything from ultra-fine 0.2 millimeter for precision work all the way to chunky 2 millimeter beasts. Stick around as I sort them, showcase some of the more interesting ones, and geek out on some of the history and science behind these tiny graphite wonders. As I start sorting these lids by size and hardness, let's break down the basics. Mechanical pencil lids come in a range of diameters, each suited for different tasks. The smallest size in my collection is 0.2 millimeter, once super rare and perfect for intricate technical drawings or when you need hairline precision. And speaking of 0.2 millimeter, at some point soon I plan to make a video on the race to 0.2. This was a race between Pentel and Newman, so please subscribe and be on the lookout for this in the coming weeks. Moving up, we have the more common 0.3 millimeter, 0.4, and 0.5 millimeter, which dominate the market today for everyday writing and sketching. These thinner sizes became popular in the 1980s with the rise of affordable mechanical pencils from brands like Pentel and Staedtler. And then there's 0.7 and 0.9 millimeter, great for bolder lines, without breaking as easy, and ideal for students or artists or anybody who presses a bit harder. And then jumping to the thicker end, I have some 1.3 millimeter and 2 millimeter that offer that vintage feel, which is reminiscent of older drafting tools. I love 2 millimeter lead. These are great for heavy shading or woodworking marks. And they hark back to the mid 20th century when mechanical pencils were evolving from wooden ones. Coming up, I'm going to take a closer look at some of the more interesting lid containers. Some of these have a fairly unique way to open and dispense lead. And now while I'm grouping them by hardness, let's talk about the lid hardness scale. It's based on the graphite to clay ratio. The more graphite, the softer and darker the mark, and the more clay, the harder and lighter. We use the HB scale, where H is for hard, and B is for black or soft, and F for fine. Starting from the super hard, like 9H, this is almost like drawing with a nail. It's great for light technical lines or layout lines for artists. The middle of the scale is HB, which is your standard number 2 pencil, and this is balanced for writing. And then into the softies, all the way from B up to the smudgy and dark 9B. My lids here span from 4H to 4B, but I'm sure there are a lot more to explore that are either harder or softer. And while pencil lids span from the ultra-hard 9H to the super soft 9B, I find that most mechanical pencils function better with grades like 2B, HB, F, H, and 2H. In some cases, extremes like 3H or higher, the lid can snap too easily, while 3B and up often smudge and clog the mechanism. You'll find that some pencils won't fade the harder lids. The clutch just can't grip it and the lid slips through. And some don't handle soft lids well. And sometimes older, softer lids will crumble inside the lid reservoir and cause jams. And now that I have this somewhat sorted out, let's end the video with a look at some of the more interesting looking lid containers. Here's a Newman in 0.2 HB. And as you'll see in my Race to 0.2 video, Newman was the first manufacturer of 0.2 millimeter lead. And here's a look at Pentel 0.2 millimeter. And here you can see Pentel is in uppercase, so this is a very early model. And as we'll see coming up, Pentel used a variety of colors depending on the size before they eventually switched to the clear plastic that we're familiar with today. Here's an older Pentel 2H. I really like that shade of brown. And now here's a Newman 0.3 in H and HB. And this Uni lid holder came out a year or two ago, and I really like it. You can put any size you want in it. It's just, right now I have 0.3 loaded. And here's an old rOtring. I've got 3 versions of the rOtring lid holders, and this one is the oldest. Here's the classic Pentel Hi-Polymer in 0.32H. with that great flip-top lid. There was a Pentel 2H, and here's a Newman 0.3 and 2H. And here's one of my favorite, the Pentel Hi-Polymer HB in 0.4, also with a flip-top lid. I got a little out of order, but here's a Faber-Castell in 0.7. And here's this nice green Pentel in 0.4 HB. And here's another favorite, the Pentel Hi-Polymer for Pro 2B in 0.4. And this Uni holder reminds me of the metal one I just showed you. I don't know which came first. This deli lead dispenser was gifted to me by a friend and fellow collector, and this is part of my EDC. This is refillable, and when you knock it, it will dispense a stick of lead. I absolutely love this thing. Here's some lead from Korea, my only lead from Korea, and I'm very happy to have it. And here's some Newman 0.7 in HB. And here's a Faber-Castell and a very old Pentel. Here you can see it says Japan Stationery Company Limited. Pentel was known as this from its founding in 1946 until it officially renamed itself to Pentel Company Limited in 1971. Here's some Uni HB in 0.5. And here is a Uni B in 0.5. Here's some of the older Pentel red. I've seen this in red and blue. And some more Hi-Polymer with the flip-top lid. I love these cases. This Pentel Ain case is cool, but it always gives me trouble getting it open. And here's my K&E Leroy refill that came with my lettering set. I'm not sure who makes this, but I think it's German. The Eagle Turquoise 20, or 0.20 inches, was a very early introduction of 0.5 millimeter lead in America. And here's another older rOtring example. And this one here isn't quite as old. And this is a very cool Staedtler Mars micrograph holder. This Faber-Castell super polymer container has a top that slides over, allowing you to dispense a piece of lead. And here's some more Faber-Castell with a not so fancy case. Here's an example of a packaging change. At some point, the design changed, and I apologize for not researching the exact timeline. The placement of the words spare lead was moved, as shown here. One tube has Pentel on the side and spare lead on the adjacent side, while the other tube says both Pentel and spare lead on the same side. I'm not sure which came first. If you know, please leave a comment. And the same goes for these older brown tubes. If you know when they switch from brown to clear, please leave a comment. These vintage P1, P2, and so on were Pentel's pour film series. for use in the PF pencils. These were specialized leads designed for technical drawing on drafting film, with P1 being the softest and the hardness increasing as the P number goes up. And here is a prized possession. This is the world's only 0.6mm lead. It was made by Tombow and sold only in Turkey. And here are some really soft Pentel lids. And some more examples of packaging changes. I think this is my only stick of Pentel lid that has yes on it. And what's that all about? And here is some lid from a Mitsubishi Demi. This is also a very early adaptation of 0.5mm lead in the United States. And I know you've heard it a lot in this video, but be looking for a video on this one too. And here's my third and most recent version of the rOtring lid. Here's some colored Uni and a 0.7 version of that deli lid dispenser. And here's the Pentel Hi-Polymer in a cardboard packaging, which I wish we would see a lot more of. So here's an example of a modern Pentel packaging, and to contrast that, here's the all caps format, so this is a very early version. And here are some more examples of the packaging changes. Here's a very dirty Newman 0.5 in H. I didn't realize how grimy this thing was until I filmed it, so sorry guys I didn't clean this up first. So these look similar, but the caps are different colors. I'm not sure what that's all about either. And here are even more examples of packaging changes. And one of these has a different sticker near the cap. So we are right at the end of the video, and we're going to wrap it up with some of the larger size lead in my collection. Here's some 1.3mm lead. And here is some vintage Faber-Castell 2mm. I love this case. And here's some Album 2mm in a pretty dirty beat up case. And to end things out, some vintage Koh-i-Noor in 2mm. Well, that wraps up this video, and I wanted to thank you again for watching. And if you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And also, if you have suggestions for other videos, please leave a comment. Thank you again for watching. And also I wanted to thank the members of the Mycology Mechanical Pencil Forum and the Mechanical Pencil subreddit and Facebook groups. And until the next video, good luck with your collection.